Hello, every pony. I'm Fauna Joy. The main six are the spirits of the elements of harmony. That's what makes them the main six. But what if they weren't? Since the beginning of the show, there have been people speculating on what it would be like if other ponies were the bearers of the elements, or beating Hasbro to the punch by speculating what would happen if the elements weren't tied to any pony at all. Most of the people speculating about alternate bearers typically choose from the background pool of characters who are often less likely to meet Twilight than the other main five were. However, I think the writers gave us a built-in group of backup element bearers. And no, I'm not talking about the background six. That's already been done. I'm talking about the Unicorn 5 from the episode of Mending Fences. Twilight already had a significant connection with them, and they already had a significant connection with each other. I'm not the first to think of these ponies as element bearers, though. This Reddit thread brought the subject up a while ago, and the Redditors who posted to the thread brought up several very good points about these characters and what elements they would represent. Twilight would obviously remain the same, considering her cutie mark connection to the Tree of Harmony. However, the other elements were originally shaped like generic gems, meaning they would change their shape to fit the cutie mark of whichever pony best fit the matching element and was there to support the bearer of magic in her time of need. Let's take a look at the other five, starting with Minuet. Most of the Redditors followed along the same line of thinking I had already developed by the time I found the thread, and we agree she should be the element of laughter. User Jester of Destiny said it rather succinctly. Laughter fits Minuet not simply because she laughed a lot, but because she was the one who stayed the most positive throughout the whole episode. She helped Twilight and talked to Moondancer because she saw things going well. Jester makes a very good point. Minuet has a very bright, bubbly personality like Pinkie Pie does, and through it all, she remains positive, trying to keep everyone in good spirits in spite of what's going on between Twilight and Moondancer. She's basically playing the same role Pinkie Pie does in the main six, so Minuet is the element of laughter. Even though she was absent in the episode of Mending Fences, Lyra is stated to be a member of the group Twilight originally ran with, so she's included in the elements group too. Thankfully, we got a look at her canon personality from the episode Slice of Life, so we can make our theory based on that as opposed to the human-obsessed fandom version of her that everyone loves. The Redditors were a little split on her element, whether she should be loyalty or honesty based on the mini-plot with her and Sweetie Drops. Both elements fit well, and as Commander Firebrand pointed out, it can be hard to tell the difference between the two. Looking at the personalities of the Unicorn 5, I think Lyra would best represent the element of honesty. I came to this conclusion because at the end of Slice of Life, while she was still hurting a little from Sweetie Drop's deception, the fact that her friend told the truth, or was honest, mattered more than the fact that there was a lie in the first place. And in turn, she told the truth of a little lie herself. You may be thinking that sounds an awful lot like loyalty, but bear with me, you'll understand in a moment. Because next comes Moondancer. Most of the Redditors and I agree that she is the element of loyalty. While the Unicorn 6 were growing up in Canterlot, she was Twilight's most loyal friend. The two were always hanging out together and studying together. They did everything with each other. And then, the day Twilight left for Ponyville, Moondancer needed Twilight to be there to return that show of affection and loyalty. When Twilight didn't show, it shattered Moondancer. This feeling of betrayal is what defines why she is the element of loyalty, and now that she's opened back up, you can be certain that she is going to be just as loyal to the other four unicorns as she was to Twilight. See? Loyalty, honesty, totally different. Totally. Moving on! The last two remaining elements are generosity and kindness, which unfortunately are given to the two ponies of the group who are given the least amount of character development in this particular episode, Lemon Hearts and Twinkleshine. Lemon Hearts is given some development and a small mention of where she works, while Twinkleshine gets even less than that, with only 1 or 2 lines of dialogue and nothing else. I did some digging around to try and find some other official descriptions of the characters, but the only official ones I found came from the My Little Pony Gameloft game and the trading card game. I found a couple of fan descriptions, but they were few, far between, and had roughly the same details as these ones from these games. Aside from her job at the Canterlot Castle, this is pretty much all we know about Lemonhearts from the Gameloft game. She's a yellow unicorn with a bright cerulean mane who wears her heart on her sleeve. And in her name. She has 4 different trading cards, and I'm mainly determining her personality from the effects the cards have in the gameplay, as well as the blurbs on the bottoms of the cards. Notice all 4 cards are labeled Friend. That's because these cards are essentially the friend of the player, helping them to win the game. The Beaker Pony card's effect is, retire this card to dismiss an opposing resource. Essentially, it's removing something another player needs in order to gain more points. The text on it says, Lemonhearts was only trying to tell her classmate that it's not called a beaker, it's called an Ellenmere flask. She still can't remember how that explanation ended with it on her head. This helps a little, as by removing another player's resource, she's helping her own player move towards victory. As for the blurb, there's a bit more information there. She was trying to help her friends learn the correct information about something when a mishap happened. And that's as close to an explanation for that scene as we're ever going to get. The next card is Banquet Planner. The effect is, pay 1 point to reveal a card from the top of your deck and draw it. If it's an event, this card gets +2 power until the end of the turn. The blurb says, after Moondancer's party, Lemonhearts added cake to the menu for all her big Canterlot Palace events. Princess Celestia wholeheartedly approved. This tells me a little bit more about her. Essentially, she gives the player a potential power-up and ability to gain more points. She's doing all she can to help the player win. The blurb helps a little too. She improves her business practices after Moondancer's party, making everyone she works for happier. The third card is Sweetheart. The card's effect is, +1 power while at a problem with at least one of your critter friends. The blurb says, now if only every pony with lemon in their name was half as nice as Lemonhearts. Quoted from Mint Julep. A problem in the game is an obstacle the player needs to overcome in order to gain points and win. So this card uses the assistance of critters to help the player move forward in the game. And according to Mint Julep, Lemonhearts is the nicest lemony pony she knows. So there's an endorsement from another pony. The last card, Animancer, has the same normal effect as Sweetheart. It also has a chaos effect played when Discord is on the field. When this card is flipped, it has +1 power until the end of the face-off for each of your friends involved in the face-off. The blurb in this one says, Lemonhearts liked most of her schoolwork in Canterlot, but animal science was definitely her favorite subject. Sounds like a certain main character, doesn't it? All of this information put together sounds to me like a very kind pony. She's friends with every pony she comes across, is gentle and caring towards critters, and does all she can to make every pony happy in her catering job. With all this in mind, I feel she definitely deserves the element of kindness. Which of course means Twinkleshine is the element of generosity. However, I'm not just giving this to her because they're both the last ones in the list. I wanted to make sure that both kindness and generosity fit the ponies they were given to, and Twinkleshine, I think, fits generosity. Her Gameloft description isn't anything more than a description of her, so I'm skipping over that and straight to her trading cards. The first one, Experimental Magic, seems to be a reference to one of her comic appearances when she accidentally summons something nasty. Its effect is, retire this card to put a troublemaker into play face up at this card's problem. The blurb says, oops, honestly, I had no idea that spell would summon a Baylor, which is a direct quote from the comic. Troublemakers are obstacles a player's opponent has to defeat in order to overcome their problem, so this card puts an obstacle in the way of the opponent, though Twinkleshine is embarrassed and repentant for it. The second one, Outside the Box, I think is a little more like her character. The effect is, at the start of your main phase, look at a number of cards from the top of an opponent's draw deck equal to the number of cards with Inspired you control. Put any number of them on the top of the deck in any order and the rest on the bottom. The blurb says, studying with Twilight Sparkle before her big move to Ponyville helped Twinkle Shine look at magic in all new ways. With this card and other cards with this effect, you can arrange some of the cards in your opponent's deck however you want. So you can either be nice to your opponent or be incredibly mean, and the blurb gives a nice little anecdote about her past studying with Twilight. Her third card, Overachiever, has the effect, while you have at least 3 cards in your hand, this card has +1 power. The blurb says, no pony at Celestia's School for Gifted Unicorns took better notes than Twilight Sparkle, but Twinkle Shine was no slouch. So she gives her player more power to help them towards the win, and this reinforces the story from the other card that she and Twilight help each other study. The last card, Compulsive Helper, has the effect, when an opponent confronts this card's problem, you may exhaust this card to gain 1 action token. Action tokens are described as a player's currency that they use to play cards and pay the costs of certain actions. So a little like action points in the Fallout games when using VATs. This speaks to me of a generous pony. She helped Twilight with her studying and probably shared her notes with other ponies who weren't doing so well. Her card effects also speak of a generous spirit. After all, the effect that allows the player to rearrange some of the opponent's cards is a rather generous gift. It's up to the player to decide how they'll use it. We have the elements assigned now, so how would these 5 gain the elements instead of the main 5 we know and love? Well, we know that every pony except Moondancer was in Ponyville the night of the Summer Sun celebration, and Moondancer only stayed in Canterlot because Twilight was preoccupied with the story of Nightmare Moon and skipped her party. What if Twilight's unicorn friends followed her to the Golden Oak Library instead of Rainbow and the others? Say the other 4 managed to convince Moondancer to come along with them, hoping the celebration would cheer her up. You know, instead of just ignoring their clearly devastated friend and going on about their normal lives. Everything else goes on pretty much the same way they did in the first episode, with Twilight realizing that her friends embody the elements of harmony and defeating Nightmare Moon. Although this is all purely speculation as to how things could have happened, and now we have a hint as to how things will happen. Or did happen, since the final episode was an epilogue? Either way, we are given a peek into the future of the bearers of the elements in The Last Problem. As Twilight and Luster Dawn walk through the hall of the castle, we're shown several new windows depicting events between the castle's rebuilding and the final episode. While I'd love to discuss each window and what it potentially depicts, I think it's best to stay focused on the one that features the Student Six. It's stylized in the same way as the windows where the main 6 are defeating their villains. The 6 bearers are pictured triumphant over a fire rhinoceros in space? Okay. We never really get a canon list of which character embodies which element, so I'm forced to go from these character banners from 2019's Everfree Northwest convention, where the voice actors for the Student Six appeared as honored guests. Based on these banners, the elements are thus. Smolder is honesty. I can definitely get behind this pairing. Smolder is known for being rather blunt, and when the Tree of Harmony tested the students, hers revolved around admitting she liked girly things, being honest. Silverstream is laughter. Yeah, this was pretty obvious. As happy and bubbly as she is, she's easily the spiritual successor to Pinkie Pie. Gallus is loyalty. I like that the griffin of the group embodies this element, especially considering how griffins as a species have been depicted through the series. And when you look back at his story in the Hearthwarming Club, it makes a lot of sense. He's been alone nearly his entire life. These 5 creatures are the first ones to show even the slightest interest in his well-being. In the real world, a lot of people who have been in that same situation growing up become fiercely loyal to anyone who proves themselves to be a true friend. Yona is generosity. Honestly, I don't know what to think about this one. I would more categorize her as honesty or loyalty, but she doesn't fit those as well as Smolder and Gallus do, respectively. Other than her pride in being a yak and confusion about pony ways, she wasn't really fleshed out as well as the rest were. Ocellus is kindness. I can definitely see this one. She's a lot like Fluttershy in that she's more introverted than the rest, yet she's immediately ready to lend a hoof to those in need, and in general is all about creatures being kind to each other. Especially since she's a reformed changeling, it hints towards a lot of character growth for her and her species since Chrysalis was dethroned. Last but not least, Sandbar is magic. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one either. To be fair, I don't really have much of an idea for which of the six most embodies magic, as it's kind of vague. With Star Swirl and Twilight both embodying magic, or sorcery in Star Swirl's case, it's easy to assume that a magic user would be the one to take up the mantle. It could be that even as an Earth pony, Sandbar still has enough innate magic within him to fulfill the role, as it's suggested that pony kind in general are highly magical beings. With the three generations of the element bearers magically joining together to defeat Tirek, Chrysalis, Cozy Glow, and the Wendigos, it suggests that these six elements will continue to pass on their magic through the generations, regardless of the destruction of the physical gems. As Twilight says in the final battle, the elements were just symbols. It's the magic of all creatures coming together in friendship that is the true power. This, in my mind, solidifies somewhat the idea that the main five weren't the only ponies in all of Equestria that could have taken up the elements alongside Twilight. As long as five other ponies stood beside her and faced villainy together, they truly would be embodying the magic of friendship. And while the show has ended, I find that some of the aspects of it that I've been planning to analyze are still up in the air. I honestly don't care if what I come up with is proven or disproven by the show creators. It's just so much fun to dig into this wonderfully creative world and to try and think of how it ticks. I definitely don't have any plans to stop anytime soon. So until next time, I'm Fauna Joy, flying off. Hello everypony, I wanted to make a little post-credits announcement. My channel recently hit 100 subscribers, woo! To celebrate, I want to record a cover of the song Another 100 People by Stephen Sondheim. But I unfortunately recently had a very nasty cold where I lost my voice, and I'm still recovering after about a month or so. So it'll be a bit belated, but it's definitely coming. I'm hoping this will kick off a whole list of songs I've been wanting to cover for a while. The fact that this was always the first song on my list is pure coincidence, but hey, I won't complain. For now, have some bloopers. Or beating Hasbro to the punch by speculating what would happen if the elements of harmony weren't tied to any pony at all, and I sort of stumbled over that. She helped Twilight talk to Moondancer, and... Okay, I completely misread that. She's basically playing the same role Pinkie Pie does for the main six, and I said that wrong. She's basically playing the same role Pinkie Pie does in the main six. My voice cracked. She appreciated the fact that her friend told the truth, or was honest, more than she was mad at her... Okay, I really need to rewrite that sentence. I found a couple of fan descriptions, but they were few, far between, and had roughly the same details as these from these games. That was awkward. Notice all three are labeled friend. Wait, what? That's because the cards are essentially the friend of the player and is helping... I keep saying is instead of are. Why do I keep doing that? She still can't remember how that explanation ended up with it on her... When this card is flipped, it has a +1 power until the end. I don't know why I said A. The blurb on this one says, and I stumbled over that, so I need to do it again. When this card is flipped, it has +1 power until the end of the face-off for each of your turns. And all of this information put together sounds to me like a very kind pony. She's friends with any pony, and I said the wrong word. Her card effects also speak of a generous spirit. Yeah, that was right. I just bleh. This speaks to me of a generous pony. I should redo that. Her card effects also speak to a This speaks to me as a generous pony, and I just used the wrong word again. After all, the effect that allows the player to rearrange some of the cards is a rather generous gift. Up to Her card also speaks of a generous spirit, and there's a kitty trying to walk over me. Hi, Hazel. What if Twilight's unicorn's friends, It's all your fault, Hazel. I know it is. Everything else goes on pretty much the same way they did in the first episode, with Twilight realizing that her friends embody the elements of harmony and defeating Nightmare Moon. And I just stumbled that again. And now we have a hint as to how things will happen. Or did happen? Since the final episode... Yeah, I really need to read ahead before I do that. It's stylized in this... words hard. As happy and bubbly as she is, she's easily the spiritual successor. While I'd love to discuss each window and what it potentially depicts, I think it's best to stay focused on the one that's... words! Why do I hate words? Words are hard. So I'm forced to go from these character banners from 2019's Everfree Northwest convention, where the It could be that even as an Earth pony standbar, I don't know what a standbar is. Regardless of the destruction of the Fooey.